Hello guys, so welcome to the Pluto in Aquarius for the Pluto generations video. Now guys, like I said in the intro, it's a big one. So I'm going to be talking about the Pluto in Cancer first. Now this generation, one thing before I even say this, I have a lot of respect for the previous generations that have come before me. They are our grandparents, our great-grandparents. Some of us are great-great-grandparents. This generation, which they call like the baby boomers, or the silent generation, they call it, because this is a generation that came up in the war, the war babies. A lot of the men, they went to war, and a lot of the women, they stayed home and looked after the children. This generation, they're born in 1914 to 1939. Like my granddad, he is born in the 30s. He's still alive and kicking. He's in his 90s. This generation, they live very long. We had the Queen. She passed away last year. She was in her 90s. Then we had her husband, who was, he was in his 90s as well, shy away from 100. This generation has lived a very, very long life because their motto is just get on with it. We have to protect home. We have to protect family. When men went to war, this generation, the women, they had no choice but to work. They had this innate power to work. They had to, the families were relying on them. So they had to go out and work. So they are pretty independent. Remember, it's Cancer, which is very emotional sign. But, even like looking back at the past, this generation, they tended to be very pretty, independent. They just got on with it. Like I said, they wanted to create like a stable, safe environment for their family, for they had to protect the home. That was like one of the higher vibrations. There's a big sense of like gutness and loyalty towards protection of like the heritage. Even when I spoke on my podcast about this generation, the higher vibration was of the entrepreneur. The higher vibration was of, because this generation also, especially the ones that are still alive, they're CEOs. They're the ones that actually built and pioneered, should I say. They pioneered family businesses that are still going strong now. All the things that we are used to, all the things that we are benefiting from, whether it's through music, fashion, art, shopping centers, bakeries, things to do with like hospitality. This generation, 9 times out of 10, it was a family business that they pioneered. They were all about building and getting the family to work together. So yes, that's a high vibration. A lot of people that the pioneers of this generation also were people that created rock and roll. So, you got Little Richard, you had, I was going to say Jimi Hendrix, but he's the next generation. But yeah, Little Richard comes to mind. There's actually a documentary coming out about him, actually. The pioneers of, rock and roll, which benefited the other generations. You had Ray Charles as well. These two definitely come to mind. These, even when it comes to like movies, pioneers like Elizabeth Taylor, who I absolutely love and adore. You also had Marilyn Monroe. You had Bette Davis. Or actually, she might be Pluto in Gemini, actually. But yes, those two come to mind. Marilyn Monroe and Elizabeth Taylor, because they're born in like the 20s and 30s. Greta Garbo, all the old school, because these people pioneered, when it came to fashion and style, glamour, old school Hollywood glamour, pioneers of this. Yeah, so that's what really and truly comes to mind to me. You know, so we're actually seeing what they did in those days, which was quite shocking for some. We're benefiting from it now. It's just being recycled. This was the first cardinal after the Pluto in Aries, which was our ancestors. This is like the first cardinal that, you know, a lot of us are truly alive and well, seeing what they've done, that we are really and truly benefiting, because, you know, these are our grandparents and great grandparents. The darker side of this generation is that, you know, and I've spoken more in depth about this, I'm not going to go too much, but the darker side is that it can be very moody, refusal to change. It's all about, you know, sticking to what we know, no other people from that looks different from us coming through. So that's like definitely racial. It's not about, because, you know, another thing also, Martin Luther King Jr., he's also Pluto in Cancer, so he was also trying to change things, but obviously he's come up in a time where, you know, his generation, they were not about that. Okay, so that was like really the darker aspects of this. And, you know, we're still seeing that happening now, which is not great. But obviously we're in Pluto in Aquarius, which is actually changing. So yeah, the darker side of aspect is like refusal to change and all of that. Yes. So now that Pluto is in Capricorn, which actually opposes this generation, we saw like the rise of, you know, because with Cancers, they like to hold, another darker aspect, they like to hold on and not let go. Remember, the opposite is Capricorn, so it's very much stuck in the past. It's not about moving forward. It's about, this is what worked, this is how it's going to stay. We're not going to be, and I'm actually seeing this. You're also seeing this generation is not helping the younger generation come through unless it's very familiar with it. So if like you look the same, act the same, that type of thing, you can come through. If you're different, no. That's why we've obviously seen like a stagnation of new things to come. And obviously, because Pluto is in Capricorn, it opposes it, it's actually helped rise it. Yes, this generation, I feel, have seen some like competition, but they still managed to rise. It's actually benefited them. So now it's going into this generation's 8th house. And obviously, you know, we have seen, like I said, there's some people of this generation that have, you know, passed. But there's this generation, they're still holding on. They're going to be transformed. They're going to be transformed in a huge way. They're going to be transformed. Yes, when it comes to like their finances, I feel it's going to be in terms of what they've built. If they've got like, it could be to do with like, if they've got like family businesses, property, money, you know, investments, loans and debts. I feel like a lot of this will come to the fore. This may also, what we may also see with this generation is that what they've used to is now going to change. So it's sort of like getting with the picture, or, you know, just sticking to what you know, which some of them actually are, you know, because remember, guys, whenever we're born into a generation, we pick up these elements of it as well. And it's a lot of time it's not our fault. It's just that we're born into a time, and obviously this is what we know, good or bad. So we may see definitely this generation probably complaining about, you know, this is what I pioneered and how come it's not being taken seriously. Because remember, this generation pioneered greatness as well. But yeah, they're going to be transformed. There's also going to be some fears that can come up about the world changing, that, you know, they're not recognizing this world. They're not recognizing, you know, what they're used to. I feel that in terms of like their finances as well, I feel that they may be forced to distribute it more. There may be some wriggles, and there may be some like, not necessarily big drama, but it could be a thing of like, you know, if they're making wills, or, you know, when it comes to like their money, they're going to have to do it very differently, because there could be a lot of, there could be things to do with like debts that come up that they may have to really work with, or it could be a case of when it comes to like their family, there could be some drama and arguments about who's getting what, and you know, because I feel that this generation, they're still going to be mentally strong. So even if a lot of them are in their 80s and 90s, some of them are going to be like in their hundreds, but a lot of them are in their 80s and 90s. Regardless, physically, if they're not agile, mentally, a lot of them are still very strong, you know. So there could be some like power moves, power shifts in how they're navigating into this change of world. If they are like billionaires or CEOs, which a lot of them are, you know, some of them may be forced, or some of them may be getting with it and thinking, you know what, I need to diversify my, you know, my company in order for it to survive for like the next generation, or like the next generation of my family to take over. There's a lot of things to do with like money and joint finances that are coming up, and also fears. But the fears I do feel is definitely because that things are not the same how it used to be. Things will not come as easy how it used to be for this generation. But it's not going to be all bad. It's just that changing with the times. Some of this generation also may be quite open, not saying completely, but some of them may be quite open to be doing therapy work, you know, talking about their childhood, because, you know, let's just be honest, this generation doesn't like to talk about the past, even though they live in the past. They don't really like to, and even if some of them do talk about the past, about their childhoods, especially about their mums, a lot of them, they hold on to a lot of, not even pressure. A lot of them hold on to a lot of trauma from the past, about, you know, especially if their husband or went to war and the husband wasn't the same again, and, you know, they had to, some of it is by force, guys, had to go out there and work, provide for the family. And also the husbands were not the same. So they not only took care of the family, they took care of the husband. And they had to, a lot of them probably saw a lot of things in their childhood. Don't be surprised as well with you Pluto in Cancer generation if your past comes back as well. Like things that happened when you were younger, things that you saw. Because guys, you saw a lot. And it's no wonder why you guys had to just, you know, pull up by your bootstraps and just carry on. Yes, so yeah, don't be surprised if you guys start talking a little bit more in depth about, you know, your childhood. There could be themes about when you had children. Some of you women, when you had children, what you went through. It could have been, you know, it could have been postnatal depression. It could have been, you know, some of you may have felt alone. Some of you can remember some of your parents were Pluto in Gemini and Pluto in Taurus. So, you know, and that generation, you know, they may have not been as supportive to some of you when you had children. You probably just had to do it alone. Some of you did have it. But yeah, so I feel that a lot of trauma things will come up with some of you guys, and you may be either forced or you may be willing to go to therapy about it, you know, so that you don't have to keep holding on, because the 8th house is a house that is a Scorpio house, and, you know, you get on very well with Scorpio, so it might be a bit more easier for you guys to just, you know, just open up a bit more and transform yourself, but also heal yourself. I feel this is very much a healing time for a lot of you guys. So yeah, it could be very emotional as well, but, you know, sometimes with emotion, it comes with transformation. So yes, big time for a lot of you Pluto in Cancer, during Pluto in Aquarius. Also, another thing with you Pluto in Cancer generation is that when Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's also helping you just do things very different, you know. So even if you guys do fear the difference, because it quincunxes you, that means it's like it's not opposing you. It's just like there's no it could cause some frustration basically, but it's not going to affect you in a huge massive way. I feel this will more affect you guys more in a emotional way, because you guys may, again, I don't say force as in do it. It's just that sometimes in life we have to be still in order to feel. And because you guys have been very busy for the past centuries or even like decades, it's now the time to just be still and feel and just be honest. And I feel that with Pluto being Aquarius, that's what it's going to bring to you. It's Pluto in Aquarius is asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to be open. It's asking you to try and do things differently, even if it is outside your comfort zone. A lot of you guys will feel uncomfortable, but with uncomfortability comes a great sense of relief. So I feel a lot of you will be feeling that. Okay. Right, the rock and roll stars, the Pluto in Leo. So you guys are born in 1937 to 1958. Okay. And even when I spoke about this, guys, with the on my podcast with the Pluto in Leo, I also, because even though, it's still a long period, it's gone from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I still personally feel that people that are born like from 58 to 50 to 61, 62, they embody, or even like 63, they embody that whole Pluto in Leo. I think that Pluto in Virgo starts more or less, I feel it's more embodies from 1964. Yeah. All the way, even, I'll even say all across the board in the 70s. Because I find that the 70s people, they embody that whole Virgo thing, even though a lot of them are Pluto in Libra. But yeah, that's another story. So, yes. So this generation, Pluto Leo, it embodies that whole, your generation are really going to feel this because it opposes you big time. And, we can't talk about Leo without talking about Aquarius, unfortunately. So you guys, definitely, when you guys came up in the 30s and, 30s and 50s, you guys are like the rock and roll stars. There was a big, you're coming off from the Pluto. A lot of your parents were, no, it could be, some of your parents could be Pluto Cancer, but yeah, a lot of your, especially your grandparents were like Pluto in, Gemini and Taurus. And, you guys saw what Pluto in Cancer pioneered, especially in terms of art, entertainment. They may have not gotten they actually didn't get the dues that was, respected to them. You saw what they did. Remember, Cancer is cardinal. They're leaders. And you guys are leaders too, but it's Cancer first. So you saw what they did and you ran with it. You made it more bam. This is the generation that were the Woodstock generation. This is the generation that were the hippies, the civil rights. Even though you didn't pioneer civil rights, Pluto Cancer did. You guys took to the streets. You lot were fighting for, what was right. A lot of you guys, when this happened, this was in the 60s. So a lot of you, especially if you're born in like the late 30s or actually even 40s, you guys were in your 20s. So you guys were all about expressing yourself. Even how you dressed was very out there. The hair, the makeup, Pluto in Cancer was very much, quite serene, glamorous, quiet, not even understated, but very glamorous. But you guys took it to that next level. So yeah, so you guys transformed art, literature, music, and politics as well. This was about you guys really took the spotlight. You're very larger than life. Leo is about kings and queens, so they always stand out. And, I feel that you guys did pioneer in terms of, even though I don't condone violence, but you guys, in order to get certain things done, because remember, this is a generation that were the Black Panthers as well. So you guys, really made your stance heard loud and clear. It went worldwide. And yes, you know, you guys can have, you know, this big egotistical of this generation. They've obviously was like a power to be heard. There could be a lot of power mad. You guys were much about freedom of speech, freedom of movement. And, you know, you guys are ruled by the sun. So you're whatever you're doing, you're going to shine. A lot of this generation is still alive and kicking too. They're in their 60s and they're in their 70s. Some of them are in their 80s. Okay. Now, actually, a lot of this generation are in their 70s and 80s, but it could be coming off 60s. But yeah, a lot of you guys who were very, because Leo's is like the teenager. So, you know, when you were younger, it was very much like, I don't care. I'm going to say this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make my voice heard. Very outspoken, very much admired generation. You know, very carefree as well. You guys are extremely creative. Okay, so you, like, again, you guys took what Pluto in Cancer pioneered and you put it out to the forefront, but you did give credit. You gave credit. I remember, you know, the Pluto, the Beatles are Pluto in Leo, and they gave credit to, because, you know, they didn't pioneer rock and roll. They just copied from what the African Americans pioneered. And they gave credit to, you know, Little Richards. They gave credit to all the greats, all the African American greats who pioneered rock and roll, who, you know, when it came to like dancing, even like the Rolling Stones, you know, Mick Jagger, he copied all the, you know, Little Richards, but also the blues artists as well. They gave credit to them, you know, which is the higher vibration of Leo. You know, they can copy, but giving credit, it makes them more, you know, a bit more likable. Because sometimes the other side of Leo, they can do that, but they don't, they sort of like forget who actually helped them. But yeah, nevertheless, this generation, I love this generation. They actually helped benefit the Pluto in Virgo. So we're seeing a lot of this generation, they're older now, you know. Pluto being in Aquarius opposes them. So this is to do with like their relationships, business and personal. It's to do with contracts. Like Pluto in Cancer, they will see there can be some oppositions along the way. I feel a lot of this generation are also going to be, a lot of you guys can actually really and truly benefit from this transit in terms of like your physical body, your physicality, who you align yourself with, who you know, because when it says, you know, squares can be harsh, but so can, you know, squares and oppositions. They're very harsh, but it doesn't mean that you're going to not get what you want. You still can. And with this generation, they're still very much like teenagers. A lot of them are still in politics. A lot of them are, you know, still ruling things in the entertainment. But a lot of them are still pioneering, because, you know, if you look back on what this generation has pioneered as well, to the forefront, is still going on. But I also see that what they was, some of this generation, what they were about when they were younger, they're not really about now. They're very much about, there was a lot of them were against the establishment, but now they're very much for the establishment. So I feel that what can happen is that a lot of them will be called out on being hypocrites. There could be some tension in relationships as well. Some of them could decide that, you know, some of them might want to live alone. You know, they want to be free to do what they want. Some of their relationships could change. They could be getting married. Could be getting married to people that are, you know, could be marrying someone younger. But some of them could be deepening their relationships and their commitments with their partners as well. I can see a lot of you guys taking a lot more care of your health and wellness. You know, there could be body changes, and, you know, I feel some of you may reject, if you guys, you know, because plastic surgery is, you know, I think is definitely free will. You do what makes you happy. No judgment here. But some of you may decide that if you're doing it, you may decide you don't no longer want to do it. You just want to work with your body how it is. And yes, there could be some drum when it comes to like contracts and that. So if you guys have set up a business, contracts could be changed. If you guys have a bit like Cancer, a lot of you guys are CEOs. A lot of you guys have not necessarily built a company from the ground up. I feel that some of you are just CEOs from a company that was built from Pluto Cancer. So there could be changes there, i.e. like some of you may retire yourself, or you could be retired because times are changing. So that obviously can cause some frustrations with you guys, but I still see that there can be a lot of greatness that can still come, you know, because you guys are forever young. When you're forever young, you keep with the times. You know, I've got an uncle who's Pluto in Leo, and he knows everything. He knows about music, fashion, art, and that's like the benefits of your generation. You guys always keep up with what's going on. Even if you don't agree, you've still got your ear to the streets, as we say. So yeah, it's a great thing. But still you can, you know, I another thing I do see is that what you guys are used to is no longer going to be viable. So be prepared, guys, that, you know, if you are in charge of things, there's going to be some power pulls and some power shifts because the younger generation are now coming up. I feel what can really benefit you guys is that if you get with it, which is not hard, you align yourself with like the younger generation, i.e. the Pluto in Libra, and who are actually, you know, more or less coming up. They're taking over from you guys, and the Pluto in Saggy. And I feel that a lot of you who are very smart will be doing that, will be guiding, because let's be real, the shadow side of this generation is a big selfishness. Like, no, remember, I'm still young. I'm still going to be heard. You know, no one's going to take over. There's a lot of that going on with you guys right now. But, you know, some of you who are very smart, you know, the tide is changing. Like, you know, remember, you guys are young. Pluto in Aquarius is young. It's young people. It's not about the old people. It's about the young people. So if you guys tap in to the younger generation, I feel that you guys will still be relevant. You guys' fears is that you're going to not be relevant anymore. And when Pluto opposing you, that's what's going to be brought up to the fore. You know, that's why some of you guys may feel that you're getting too old before your time. Remember, you're still young as you feel. But I feel that the ego in you is like, I feel that I'm being ignored. I feel that I'm not being heard, my contribution. I feel that I'm not being seen. You know, look what I did in the past. A lot of that is definitely coming up. But what Pluto in Aquarius, I feel, is telling you guys is that, you know, in order to still be relatable, in order to still be, if you want your company to thrive, if you want certain contracts, if you want your relationship to thrive, you need to get with the times. You need to align yourself. You need to be able to pass the baton on. And even passing the baton is not saying that you guys are not going to be ignored, because you're not. It's just that being a mentor or aligning yourself with people that are younger than you will actually make you more relevant than actually making you disappear. Okay? I love the Pluto like I said, I love the previous generations. The Pluto in Cancer, it squares my generation, but we get on very well with the Pluto in Leo. Extremely well with the Pluto in Leo. And I would love to work more with the Pluto and Leo generation. Remember, you guys are very stubborn. You're fixed. So I've worked with Pluto in Leo, and I've seen how they work, and I just leave them to it because I know that's what they are about. But I've never clashed with the Pluto and Leo. And I feel that your generation, you won't clash. If you put your ego aside, you won't clash with the next generation that's coming through, the Pluto in Libra and Sagittarius. You just have to be open to change, try to be open to change, and try and be open to being that mentor. Because, you know, the next generations, they will listen to you. I feel your fear is that they won't. We will listen to you because you've seen and you've gone through so much. In fact, what you guide us in, it will actually enhance us. It will also bring us a greater sense of awareness of what your generation went through. So be open to that, Pluto and Leo, because you got so much to give. And even though, yes, you guys are older now, you're also wiser. What you can tell the next generation can really inspire us. So just be open to that. You know, like I said, I love your generation. You know, I love all the previous ones, but your generation is very much about, you know, you've seen it all, you've lived it all. And, you know, even like the high vibration of your generation, you got Jimi Hendrix, you got, you know, the Rolling Stones, you got the Beatles, you have actors like Denzel Washington, you have Spike Lee, you also have, loads of actors, you know, Meryl Streep, and, you know, that's the high vibration of your generation, you know, but just try and be open to the new and younger generation coming through, and know that when they come through, you're not going to be ignored. Helping and inspiring them, it really does go a long way. Okay? Right, we are slowing things down a little bit, just a little tad bit, because we are in the Pluto in Virgo generation. So those who are born 1956 to 1971, 72, I say that because Pluto went back into Libra, then it went into Virgo again. So yeah, 71, 72. So we're getting down to earth. We're getting down to diligence. We're getting down to business. This is a sign. This generation is all about, yes, it is about big dreams, but it's also detail orientated. And generation, the previous one was ruled by the sun. The other one was the moon. This one is ruled by Mercury. So this is to do with the mind, body, and soul. This is about how we work. This is about service. This generation are very studious. They don't miss a trick. They are absolute perfectionists as well. They are all about striving for perfection. It's about helping people, even though it can be a bit too much. It's all about, you know, hard work, but doing the work properly. This generation, and what Pluto did, it did transform this generation greatly. And it, you know, I feel that some of your parents were this, especially if you're Pluto in Scorpio, and if you're Pluto, Libra, and Scorpio, your parents are Pluto in Virgo, or they could be Leo as well. So yes, this was a time that was very about socially and self-conscious about how we viewed ourselves when it came to work. This is very much a grounded generation. They didn't miss a trick. They didn't really cut any corners. And I'm sure that a lot of you have seen with this generation when you work with them, because a lot of them are in their 50s and their 60s. A lot of them have come into the age. They came of age in the 70s and 80s. Some in the 90s, should I say. A lot of this generation as well, also, they don't like to, how can I put it? Because I work with some of these people too. A lot of them, they don't like to, it's not that they don't help, they are helpful, but there's also this criticism that comes with it. They don't like to relinquish control very easily because their standards are so high. Their standards are very much about, you know, this is how I do it, so this is how you should be doing it. So it's no wonder that they are they're actually clashing with the Pluto in Sagittarius generation, who I'll talk about later on. They are the ones that are going to be going for their third house action, spreading their wings, talking about things. And this generation is all about, no. Remember, this is the sixth house. So they're definitely clashing with these 20-year-olds that are up and coming now. They are also clashing with people that are the Pluto in Libra. They're not clashing with Scorpio because they are very similar in the way they act and speak. They are clashing with these two generations. They're all about working hard, guys. They can also overwork themselves as well. Remember, Virgo and Pisces, they're like the servant and the slaves. Okay, so they're very service to others. It's very much about, you know, it's very different to how they work. I feel with this generation, what's going on now is that a lot of them are in positions of power right now, especially the kids that are born in the 60s, because Saturn in Capricorn has trined them from 2008 till now. So a lot of them are, before I talk about that, let's see what this generation pioneered, like health and wellness. When this generation was coming up, the pill was introduced. The pill was introduced, but also a lot of like fitness videos and all these types of things of like natural remedies, organic foods, all of that. A lot of famous people were born during this time who I actually really and truly admire. I was actually watching the Wu-Tang Clan, an American saga, and the rappers there, they're actually Pluto in Virgo. So yes, so in when it comes to the celebrities of this generation, you got Chris Rock, you got Mariah Carey, Puff Daddy, J.K. Rowling, Tim Burton, Gillian Anderson, you got George Clooney. You know, it's very much across the board. That's like in entertainment, you know. So this generation is heavy when it comes to it, because when they do work, they do it properly. They go in. They don't miss a trick. Elon Musk as well, Jeff Bezos. Let's not forget Jay-Z, Michael Jackson, RuPaul. You had a lot of this generation, like Sid Vicious. He came up during this time to when it was like the whole punk era. A lot of also when it came to like the changing of fashion and style, especially in this country, a lot of them were Pluto in Virgo. They were a lot of the style that we're seeing now. It was called in the 80s, 70s, 80s, it was a rude boy style. So there was a lot of Jamaicans that came here to this country to help rebuild this country. And how they dressed, it inspired the British to dress differently, and it was named the rude boy style, because that's what they called it in Jamaica, rude boys. So a lot of pioneers who pioneered music in this country are Pluto Virgo. Yes, like when it came to like reggae, and not obviously it's Bob Marley, who's Pluto Leo, but a lot of like the music in this country was taken from the backs of the Caribbean culture. And the Pluto Virgo generation, they really were inspired, like especially the British, they were very inspired by it, and they ran with it, and after then it blew up. So in the 80s, this generation, they really changed things when it came to like fashion and art. Another thing with this generation, one of the reasons why they go so hard is because when a lot of these creators were coming up, it was the time of the recession, and some of this generation signed on, getting the dole, and they didn't really work, but they just created, but they made sure that the creation was on point. So the previous generation, the generation that came after Pluto Libra, benefited. So this generation I really love as well, you know, because some of the generations that have passed, like Biggie, Tupac, Kurt Cobain, Jean-Michel Basquiat, they were Pluto in Virgo. And, you know, a lot of my generation, we look back on what they done and see how far they've pioneered. You know, they just, you know, if Pluto Leo starts something, Pluto and Virgo just refine it. So that's one of the reasons why this generation is so heavy. Love it. So yes, So like I said, a lot of them are still in power because of the Capricorn trine. And, you know, we saw more of the people that were in the late 50s, early 60s coming forth. A lot of them are in their 60s. But what we're seeing now is the people that are born in the 60s, so like 64 to like 69, they are still up and coming in power. And a lot of them are actually going through their Saturn return, while Pluto is in Aquarius. So this time, things have been pretty easy for this generation. They will go through their Saturn return. And so the tide is changing. There's a shift happening. Pluto's really early degrees. So, I mean, Pluto in Aquarius is very early degrees. So we're going to see like the people that are born in 58, 59, late 50s, early 60s. They're going to be feeling this shift with Saturn being in Aquarius. Well, regardless, they're all going to be feeling it. It's a quincunx, which means that there's basically nothing in common. But still, there's something that needs to be changed. The people, the 60s kids that are going through their Saturn return, they're going to feel like there's push and pull restrictions when it comes to their relationships, business and personal. Things to do with like their physical self. So things are changing. Saturn in Pisces with Pluto in Aquarius is changing things for this generation. Some of you will really benefit. Some of you will really enjoy the slow down pace. Saturn being, Pluto being in Aquarius is going to be changing things when it comes to your, because it's actually in your house, which is the 6th house. It's going to be changing things. And again, some of you will probably like this shift. Some of you may actually decide, you know what, I've worked hard. I brought up my children. Now I just want to kick back and I want to relax. I want to retire. Some of you, unfortunately, again, like I said in the beginning, there's like this loss of, they're not wanting to pass the baton on to the next generation after you. So there may be this push and pull of power, of control, wanting things to stay the same. And then you realize, without realizing that, you know, the tide has changed, the world has changed. Pluto being in your 6th house is showing you that, you know, it's about updating things, updating your skills, updating your work life. It's also to do with you updating your mindset. It's also about updating your physicality. It's about doing things in a different way. This way can also be in a productive way, but remember, Aquarius is Uranus. So there might be this light bulb of, okay, this has happened. What are you going to do about it? You're used to doing plan A. Now it's time to have or you're used to doing plan B. Now it's time to have plan C. What you're eating, what you're doing for yourself, how you're working out, that's all going to change. Your work-life situation, again, will change. The younger generation are coming up. It's not to say they're not going to take any crap. Maybe the Pluto in Saggy, but they're changing things. Remember, you know, and I feel that some of you Pluto in Virgo, the ones that are really thinking straight, should I say, because remember, some of you also got the Uranus conjunction in Virgo, which actually makes some of you feel, even, I'm just being honest, sound a little bit unstable, because you want things this way, then you change your mind very quickly, and it just gets to be a lot of chaos. So what can happen with this is that, you know, work life is just going to be so different. You know, if some of you are used to being the boss, maybe the CEO, or you've been promoted, your headmasters, headmistresses, or anything like that, you may find that you have to update things. You may find that, you know, it's about equality. It's not just about people that look like yourself. You may find that you have to listen to the younger generation. You also may find that You know, work life is not going to be the same. So instead of making everyone finish at 10 o'clock, starting at 10 in the morning and finish at 10 at night, that's not going to work anymore. Work life will change. Also, is that people are going to be working part-time. So if you are a boss, it's about being open to that. If you're not going to be open to that, you know, there's going to be a lot of force that's going to be put on you. I'm not saying that physical, I'm just saying that because of the way the worlds are working, and with Pluto, with the sixth house being within this Pluto in Aquarius is in Cancer, people are going to be working with their feelings now. People are not going to also be putting up with any bullying. They're not going to be putting up with any strict criticism, nitpicking. Yeah, in terms of it can come across as bullying, people standing over their shoulder. People are not going to be having that. So it's about thinking, trying to think differently. Some of you may decide that, you know, you're just tired of this whole thing and decide to work for yourself. Aquarius, excuse me, is about entrepreneurship. So some of you may decide, you know what, this is not working for me anymore. So let me build my own like company, or build my own, you know, health and wellness studio, or some of you may actually revolutionize the whole wellness, the workplace as well. Some of you may really love this, like, you know what, I can just kick back and relax. There's a big change coming for you, Pluto in Virgo generation, and I personally feel you just need to relax. It's, you know, you guys have done a lot. You guys have pioneered a lot. You guys have created a lot. You guys have helped a lot of people. And what this Pluto in Aquarius is, you know, and I feel that some of it is to do with, again, lack of control. Some of you feel that you're going to be ignored. Some of you are going to also feel that what you've put out there, no one's doing it. That's really not the case. I feel that some of you guys feel really strongly about that, and it's time to look at what you can do for yourself. And, you know, deep down, Pluto and Virgo, they're all about helping and bettering people. And if that's not going to work, it's time to do something that, you know, some people will be open for you to help them. So whether it's going down the health and wellness, or going down changing up how you're working. Some of you also may decide you want to work part-time yourself. So this will definitely benefit you. But all in all, I do feel that this is the time where some of you may just, it's a time of, you know, sort of like relaxation, that you don't have to do what you did before. You know, even when Pluto was in your fifth house as well, yes, you guys did things to benefit, whether it's yourself or benefit people that are like yourself. Now things have changed. And I feel that it'll be good for you guys to see that. You know, a lot of you will be in your head a lot, but, you know, you guys are ruled by Mercury. We now head into the Pluto in Libra generation, which is my generation. We now come, you know, we've come from a hard working place with Pluto Virgo, and we now come into a time of balance. I call this generation the beautiful but damned MTV generation, and you'll find out why. When I do a full podcast on this, guys, I'll be talking more in depth about this generation. There is so much to cover. I don't believe that it will just be just the one episode. There might be 2 or maybe even 3. But yes, this generation, 1971/72 to 1983/84. They say this is the shortest generation. It's a mixture of Gen X, who are 60. Yeah, it's a mixture of actually Gen X, but mostly like millennials. This generation is, I said it beautiful but damn, because there's so much that was pioneered when this generation came forth. This is the 3rd cardinal sign after Cancer. So the people that are still in charge are Cancer, the CEOs. Now they're going to, you know, the baton's now being passed on to the Pluto in Libra, which is cardinal. Obviously, the last cardinal, which will be Pluto in Capricorn. So yes, we'll come to, but this is about balance. This is about relationships. Libras actually strive to maintain balance in groups, especially in their relationships. It's the diplomat, it's the judge, it's also the jury of the zodiac. So yes, this generation very peaceful, or apparently appears very peaceful. Again, it's about balance. It's also a sign, or even a generation that likes to see two sides of the coin. The Libra, or even Pluto in Libra, they are about initiating projects, initiating new things. So even if you look back on what happened during like the early 70s, and there was a time where this generation, especially the early 70s kids, when they were born, this was a time when mixed race marriages were big. It was more or less like normalized. There was also, with this, we had like the second wave of feminism. The children that were born, because remember, the children that are born here, their parents tended to be either the Pluto in Leo and specifically Pluto in Virgo. So one thing about the previous generation, Pluto Virgo, when they went to work, a lot of these kids were left at home, so they had to grow up very fast. This generation also got into relationships very fast. They saw a lot of things very fast. Remember, Pluto's about sexuality. So there's a lot of things that this generation experienced and saw. So, but other stuff that came up with this generation is that there was like this big, not even like a big push. It was about equality for the LGBTQ community. There was equality for women's rights. Divorce rates were very, very high as well. Yes, there was a lot of war with, President Nixon. There was a lot of, the Vietnam War between 65 and 73. There obviously was a lot of problems that came with that. People had, post-traumatic stress, and, obviously that led to divorce rates, because obviously you can't really emote how you feel. So obviously that probably caused a lot of problems in relationships. Women felt the need that they could, it's not that they could do it alone. They had no choice but to claim their own happiness. People that came up of this generation. So, which was actually Pluto in Virgo. But if you're born here, if you're born in this time, you're going to be feeling that. So yes, I won't go too much into this, because I know, like I said, there's so much to cover. There's so much to cover, especially when it comes to like deaths, and there's lots of, lots of things that were being made, like Microsoft, and there was so much things that were pioneered during this, especially in the 70s and 80s. So much things being pioneered. So much people left this earth, like Elvis Presley and Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and there was so much. But yes, I will go more into that, guys. But yes, especially like, of course, MTV, hip hop was birthed in the 70s during Pluto in Virgo, Pluto in Libra. But this generation, I call it one of the greatest generations, because we had so many celebrities that have actually benefited, should I say, the Pluto in Scorpio and Sagittarius are benefiting from, so like Britney Spears, Amy Winehouse, Tiger Woods, Kanye West, Nicki Minaj, actors like Angelina Jolie, Leonardo DiCaprio, Beyonce, Serena Williams. There's more across the board. This generation, they pioneered a lot of things. This generation is very much about looks. It's very much about relationships. We will find that with Pluto being in Capricorn, they had to go in. They really had to go in. It was about the fourth house. Yes, we still saw this generation still pushing through, but there was a lot of drama that came with it. A lot of this generation started having a family, having kids. They had to balance the family life. They had to balance the whole having, you know, having your family and working, trying to be that CEO. It was not easy. Issues that also came up was to do with their childhood. Some of this, again, like I said, this generation had to grow up very fast because, you know, their parents probably were working. So when they came home, they had to warm up their food. They had to look after their brothers and sisters. There's a lot they had to do. They had to be adults at a very young age. So that probably came up a lot with this generation during Pluto in Capricorn. Yes, there could have been emotional stuff that came up. There could be illnesses that people could have left their life, marriages, deaths, rebirth, a lot of stuff, a lot of, you know, yes, it's emotional stuff, but they were transformed. Now that Pluto is in Aquarius, even though it's going to be in and out, it's going to be in Aquarius. We're starting to see already, even from the beginning of this decade, the Pluto in Virgo rising up. So who you thinking rising up? Okay, we have the president of French, what's happening in France at the moment. You know, when Pluto was in Aquarius in the 17s, that was when we had the French Revolution. Who's the prime minister there? Emmanuel Macron. In France, I mean, in Canada, we got Justin Trudeau. Excuse if I pronounce it wrong. We also have, you know, Prince William. We got Meghan Markle. We got Kate Middleton. They are, you know, in the royal family. I would say Prince Harry as well, but he's considered Pluto in Scorpio, but he's coming off the cusp of it. Another thing I was going to say, guys, is that I considered Pluto Libra. I believe that I feel the tail end is 85, because that's when I say the cutoff point is at 85, because they're in the middle. So yes, so that's what I say. So yes, so I say that Prince Harry, even though he's Pluto Scorpio, he is the energy of Pluto Libra. So they're shaking things up in the royal family, okay? Especially Meghan and Harry. I really like them. I love the fact that they are earning their own money, that they're not sponging off the UK taxpayers. This is obviously the world that it's going to go anyway. But yes, they're doing great things with that. But also, now that Pluto's in Aquarius, they're going to their 5th house action. And it's not going to be like how it was when it was Pluto in Capricorn, which was 12, which was like 50. It's going for 20 years. Not only is it going to be for 20 years, we are also in the air era, which is, the air era is for the next 250 years, okay? So the one we're in now is in Aquarius. In 20 years' time, it will be in Libra, okay? Then the next 20 years, it will be in Gemini. Then it will be in Aquarius. It's going to go so on, okay? So regardless of where Pluto goes, this generation will still be running things. It's not going to be just for 20 years. It'll be until they leave this earth, basically. So it's going to be, this Pluto's in their 5th house. This generation will revolutionize the arts. They'll revolutionize creativity. They'll also revolutionize or pioneer the law, courts, judges. There'll be a turn of contracts. Contracts will be very different. It'll be more about law and equality. We'll see across the board how things need to be equal. It's not going to be about just one certain race, people that look the same. It's going to be about, doesn't matter. Remember, the high vibration of this generation, or of Libra, is seeing both sides. It's not just about black or white, it's both. When Pluto goes into this generation's 5th house, what we're seeing now, because also the prime minister of this country is Rishi Sunak. He is 1980, so he is the millennial. He's also Pluto in Libra. He's risen up. It's his time, you know. Sometimes we rise up when it's not our time. Sometimes it's best to rise up when it is your time. But regardless, this is how it works. So we're going to see, you know, what Pluto in Libra in this generation's 5th house is showing them that, you know, you can come out of your shell. You know, you've had it hard. You know, you have done the work in your 4th. But now it's time to do what you've learnt when it was in your 4th. And now push things out into the open. What have you always wanted to create? You know, these relationships are really going to be changing under this generation as well. Relationships within themselves, how they view relationships with their partner. Some of this generation who have gone out with people who they considered beautiful, because remember, this is an aesthetic pleasing generation, very much about looks and, you know, what they're wearing, who they're associating with. That's all going to definitely change. Pluto, when Pluto goes into this generation's 5th house, it's going to actually show them where they are, you know, what is pleasing to their eye. What has society really expunged your brain into you thinking this is what you need to have on your arm, or this is who you need to surround yourself with? What do you want to surround yourself with? What do you want to create? There's going to be a lot of purging going on as well. So that's one of the reasons why relationships will definitely change. There's also going to be a lot of, you know, pleasing the self and not just others, which is not going to be easy. Yes, there can be some egotistical tendencies that come through. Some of this generation might start to think that they're 20s, even though a lot of us are in the youngest of this generation. The youngest is 38. The oldest is 50. Okay, so we're now seeing a lot of us, we're in our 40s, but a lot of us are coming into our a lot of us are coming into our 40s. So I know some people that have turned 40 this year. Some of them, no, they're 39. Yeah, 39, 40, should I say. So regardless, a lot of us, you know, whether it's going into our 40s or in our 40s, we're going to be changing things. We need to just be ready for that. We need to also be mindful that we're not getting the egos, not going too crazy. If we have children, this is going to be changing the dynamics and relationships of it, that we're not being too overly possessive, pushing too hard. Some of us also will definitely have children. I believe that a lot of people in this generation will be having, if you haven't had children, you'll have them later. Everyone's having kids later anyway. I feel it may be much easier around this time too. But also kids will transform us. Some of us may even go into being that kid that we weren't when we were young, because we had to be young adults. So it's like, okay, I always want to do this, I'm going to do it now. So you could leave a job. Some of you could leave a relationship. Some of you could decide that you want to be alone. You're going to try to be alone. Some of you could also decide that, you know, you're going to be making sure that you're standing out for the right reasons. You're showing works of art. Across the board, it's not just art. It's going to be like books and publishing and, you know, changing the ways of how the law is. But as long as this generation tries to remain balanced and not greedy and not egotistical and not all about me, things will definitely work out well. You guys are getting trined here for the next 20 odd years going forward because of that ear conjunction. It's about making it work. A lot you're going to learn. There's a lot you're going to fail in, but there's also a lot that you're going to be passionate about. Passion is key here, and not forgetting it. Another thing of this generation, they will be bringing different types of groups and organizations together. And there's not going to be this is not a time of discrimination, a time of bringing all people together. Black, white, Asian, mixed race, doesn't matter. It's about bringing people together. In order to create a better world, we all need to come together. And I feel that Pluto and Libra are going to be the forefront of it. I'm looking forward to seeing what type of things you guys are going to create. I'm also looking forward to seeing how you guys are going to be transforming and revolutionizing relationships. Yes, another thing I did say is that when it comes to relationships, that when Pluto went into Aquarius, I mean Capricorn, some of you may have settled for less, or some of you may have settled because society deemed it acceptable. You're going to be looking at it differently. It's another thing. It's about going with who you deem beautiful, not about who society deemed. It's not about, oh, this is going to make me embarrassed. Regardless, forget that. It's about who you feel. Because this is a time of creativity, but it's also a time of confidence and passion. So let that shine through. We now go into an extreme way. Dark, could be calculating, but also this is it. Welcome to the Pluto in Scorpio, which is 83/84 to 1995. Like I said to you guys before, I personally believe that the Pluto in Scorpio, it really and truly starts in 85, 86. Yeah, that's why I feel, even though, you know, it is said it is, I've worked with so many people that are 83 and 84, and they embody more of the Pluto in Libra. So yes, Pluto in Scorpio, guys. We've come out of trying to find balance, and now we're just going to go for it. We're not going to be holding back. This generation is ruled by Pluto. Another thing I found out, guys, is that Pluto is actually detriment in Leo. I thought it was Scorpio, but it's actually Leo. So yes. So Pluto Scorpio, very extreme, very passionate, sexy, volatile, about the hidden things. The sign of course, there's some manipulation that's going on, but they see through the BS. That's one of the greatest things about this generation. This generation is very much obsessed with getting the truth out. It's about power. It's also about obsession with power, but obsession with getting the truth. Obsession with transforming themselves. This is the generation, a little bit like Pluto Libra, but not so extreme. Because remember, we have to look back on what happened previously in order to see what's happening to us now. Yes, this generation, some of them did come from divorced parents. They may have traumatic experiences, whether it's, you know, mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, all of that. They felt it. This is a very sensitive generation. This is the detective of the zodiac. In order for this generation to transform, they need to get stuff out there. Being ruled by Pluto is like, it's like, you know, the things that you need to just basically vomit out. That's what this generation is about, okay? A lot of stuff went down here. Like I said, I have done a full podcast on this, so really check that out. The rise of when Pluto went into Scorpio in 83, 84, there was the rise of, there was a pandemic that happened. It was the AIDS pandemic. I remember it very well. The advert scared the hell out of me. And this is a 4-year-old talking. There was also a rise of crime, drugs. You know, there was a rise of death that was happening. But also, obviously, when that happens, we need to see if we can rebirth from this. There was also a rise of all types of abuse. Okay, again, this generation has seen it all. Okay, there was a rise of like dark movies, you know, slasher movies like I don't know, like Jason, and yeah, I mean, I remember all these, but there was a rise of that. A lot of celebrities who were Pluto in Virgo came out, like Madonna, Prince, Michael Jackson. You know, yes, there was so much of that, even like Stephen King's. Of course, as we're going up older, a lot of this generation that are born here, you know, like Daniel Radcliffe from Harry Potter. This is very much a time that magic was more or less like created. And it's no surprise, guys, that a lot of the Pluto in Scorpio generation are astrologers, because they came in such a time where all these things are happening. They also came up in a time where there was a lot of war going on. you know, in all countries. I remember Live Aid, which happened in 1985, was like helping Africa. To those of you who are young enough to know that. But it was a great time, but it was also a darkness. And again, if you're born in that time, you're going to be feeling it, you're going to be emoting it. So whenever we talk about the Pluto in Scorpio, we do feel a lot of us do tend to talk about the dark stuff, and it's a shame because there is some great stuff to it, but also there's a lot of things that were unearthed during like the 80s and 90s. You know, I feel that especially if you were a teenager in the 90s, you felt that whole Pluto Scorpio vibe when it came to like music, the grunge and, you know, dark. It was a lot of darkness, a lot of love, but it's also a lot of dark as well. So this generation, again, guys, check out my podcast because I have done a full video on this. But now that Pluto is in... Oh, another thing I was going to say. In this country, in 1996, we had a Dublin massacre where this man, he opened fire on children. He killed 16 children. And one adult was wounded and 15... and then he killed himself, which was like the dark shadow side of this. And that just goes to show of what this generation, people who are born this generation, not are necessarily about, but the darkness, the deepness that this generation had to feel. And it's no wonder the way they are now is because of what they felt or saw on the TV, or even what their parents went through. Pluto in Scorpio and Libra are quite similar. They're quite similar, you know. I will say about the people that are the celebrities that are born as Lady Gaga. I love Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber. We also have Mark Zuckerberg, even though I see that he's like... Remember, if you're 84, you're Pluto Libra, yeah? But yes, but still. But the Olsen twins, Hilary Duff, Harry, you know, the Harry Styles, the Jonas Brothers, LeBron James, Conor McGregor, Cristiano Ronaldo, Michael Phelps. These people were born, and a lot more, but they're born under Pluto in Scorpio, because you can see the intensity of these children, I call them children, of how hard they've had to work, but how they've transformed themselves. This generation, especially with Pluto being in a Capricorn, has spoken about, because it was in their third house, so they've spoken about traumas, they've spoken about things that happen in their family, they've spoken about all types of abuse that they've had or felt, they've spoken about injustices when it comes to racial or when it comes to the LGBTQ community. This is the generation of the cancel culture. Even though it has gone a bit too far, they've ended up cancelling themselves. There's a lot of cancelling going on. This generation, because Pluto in Capricorn has been in their third house, has really activated their mind into saying things. This generation also, a lot of this generation have also made businesses on social media. They've created content. They've had podcasts. They are innovators. They are people have followed. They got a lot of followers. They're still going strong now. I see that the people, the Pluto in Scorpio, who are early 80s, so like 83, 84, 85, 86. Again, guys, even though that's what it says in the book, I feel it's more the 86 going forward. But, you know, but the early 80s, the mid 80s are going to be feeling this square first. But the people that are still benefiting from Pluto in Capricorn are the late 80s, 90s kids. They're still going strong. So, yes, so they've really, like Pluto in Virgo, they've benefited from the trine and the sextile from Pluto in Capricorn. It's really, you know, the big birth of entrepreneurship with this generation. You also have to bear in mind that This generation, they got a lot of planets in Capricorn. So it's Neptune in Capricorn, it's Uranus in Capricorn, it's Saturn in Capricorn. So this is one of the reasons why they rose up. It was their time, you know, and they've made a lot of money. There's also made a lot of drama that's come with it. We've actually started to see more drama happening more than what they've actually accomplished. This is just facts, guys. So yes, and let's not forget Rihanna and Usain Bolt. How can I forget them? But anyway, so yeah, so they've made businesses. This is what the third house does. The third house is a business house. But now it's going to be in their fourth house, and the mid 80s are going to be feeling this. So what's going to happen, you know, it's really good to talk to the Pluto in Libra generation. It's the time where a lot of this generation are going to go within. There can be some stuff that comes up with the home life, the home and work-life balance in what they, you know, a lot of this generation are having kids as well. You know, the fourth house, a lot of people do tend to start having children, building a family, because, you know, your business has been built, you've made the money, and now it's time to sort of like come home. What this does bring during the Pluto in Aquarius, because it does square, so that's one of the reasons. Remember, it squared Libra, Pluto Libra in Capricorn. Now it's going to square you. Aquarius and Scorpios have really nothing in common with each other, only the fact that they are fixed. Aquarius is very much mental. It's a very detached sign. It's not a sign that is very about emotions. It's about let's talking and let's having fun and let's just, you know, it's not a deep sign. Scorpio is very deep. So with Aquarius ruling the fourth, it's like they're going to have to find ways in order to get deep without being too intense. There's going to be issues that come up about childhood. Specifically, it might be about their parents, specifically about their mum. And there's going to be a lot of things about losses along the way. And, you know, things to do with the home. So there could be you changing your home. Pluto in Aquarius is making you look at things differently when it comes to you raising your family, when it comes to you renovating your home, building the home, when it comes to your deep personal relationships, also when it comes to you talking about your experiences that doesn't alienate your feelings, making you feel that you have to get someone back, manipulate the situation, waiting for people's karma to come, or, you know, it's about, how can I put this? It's about talking about things, but not wishing anything on anyone, especially if someone's hurt you, because past hurts can come. Pluto Scorpio, you know, a lot of past hurts can come, but it's about how you can transform it in a different way. Remember, this is for 20 years. So there's going to be a lot of work that you guys have to do. And even when Pluto goes into your fifth house in Pisces, it's not going to be as big because Pisces is such a hidden sign. And a lot of you will be in like your 50s, like late, it would be like late 40s, but it would be like, yes, you guys will more or less, yes, you guys will be like in your late 40s and 50s. And some of you may decide that, you know what, during Pluto and Capricorn, I've actually done the work. So when Pluto goes into your fifth house in Pisces, it's like some of you may just want to kick back. You know, it's like it feels like the third house is like where you lot have sort of like not met your match, but like where you guys have, you know, you've done the work and I've forgotten the word I was going to actually say, but you guys have put on so much energy and effort into building like your business that when it goes into your fifth, it's going to be like, I don't need to do anything. I've done it all. You know, some of you may even feel that you've not expired. Why is that word there? You know, sometimes guys, when you have done something and you don't need to do anything else type of thing. I mean, the word will come to me. But yeah, some of you guys will probably just think, you know, I don't need to do anything anymore. I can just kick back and just live off my millions, or, you know, just do something with my family, or You know, there's going to be a deep transformation, but the transformation is here. It's not going to be easy for all, but it may be easy for some. Some of you may enjoy this downtime. Some of you may actually feel that, you know, what's the word? Some of you may actually feel that a lot of the hard work that you've put into when it was in your third, and a lot of things came easy for you guys as well when it came to, like, I don't know, building, you know, building your brand, or, you know, even how you communicated, or even getting your point across, whether it was through neighbors. Because I feel a lot of you did, you know, buy up houses and sell it, and, you know, things came very easily. But I feel that when it comes into your fourth, it won't feel as easily. It's like you're gonna have to put a lot more work in. Some of you may even start complaining because, you know, there's so much stuff that you've done and you may feel that it was ignored. For some reason, Scorpions are ignored. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they tend to hide. But some of you actually may feel that your efforts, your previous efforts, have been ignored. Like, I said this, how come no one's saying I did that? You know, this company that I built, or this project that I started, how comes it's not being looked at? Because it's the fourth house. The fourth house is never an easy house. Some of you may really enjoy kicking back and just relaxing with your family. Some of you may decide you want to move away from the city, moving into the country, or even deep into the forest. Some of you may decide that you want to live with your parents or live near your parents, even moving to another country. You know, it's a time of, I mean, like I said, talk to the Pluto in Libra, how it went. Yeah, talk to the Pluto in Libra, how it went, because they can probably give you a bit more insight. But even if it's a downtime, doesn't mean that, you know, you still can't do any work. Some of you may decide you want to work from home. You may even build like a family business from home. You know, it's not going to be a case of, oh, because that's one of the fears. I feel that some of you may think that you're going to be left or being ignored. It's just that the Pluto tide has just changed. And, you know, some of you, that's the word, some of you may feel that you've peaked already during when Pluto was in Capricorn. So the peak was when Pluto was in Capricorn. So it's like, you know what, I did it all. I set this out. Now I'm just going to relax. Now I can just chill with my family. Some of you may decide that you want to keep going, but the tide has just changed. So passing the baton on to Pluto in Sagittarius. Some of you may clash with them because you may feel that all your hard efforts are not being met or not being seen. Pluto and Sagittarius just do things differently, you know. So don't be afraid, Pluto and Scorpio, to kick back and just relax, because that's what this transition is all about. Your home and family life are calling for you. They're going to be transformed. You're going to be at the forefront of it. You can remember you're traditionally ruled by Mars. You can still be a leader, but just be a leader at home. That's what essentially Pluto in Capricorn, I mean Aquarius, is all about. You're going to be transforming things. You're going to be speaking about things. You're going to be understanding yourself better. You're also going to be understanding your family life a bit better. It's going to take some time, but it's going to be done, and you're going to feel lighter for it. We now come from the deep, dark, intense generation of Scorpio into the fiery know-it-alls, well-traveled Pluto in Sagittarius. This generation are born from 1995 to 2008. Big time for this generation. This generation is bringing something from the dark into the light, and they're not afraid who's going to see it and who's going to hear it. So this is the Jupiter generation. Come from Pluto, come from Venus to Pluto, now to Jupiter. This is a generation that is very much, this generation was very much born into a time that it was about travel, culture, religion, philosophy, higher education, and also learning. This generation, they are now in their early to late 20s. This generation, they are in their second house. of with Pluto being in their second house. It's all about money, and you know how they are viewing money, how they are earning money. This generation are going hard and fast. I like this generation. I have family that are from this generation. They're very, very chatty, creative, very positive. They're very open-minded, more so than the previous generations. They have a lot of energy. They're very optimistic about the future. They're always going from here, there, and everywhere. Yes, they're ambitious, but it's because their goals are very forward-thinking, especially when it comes to spiritual practices as well. I feel that this generation are really and truly coming forth with all of this. They're so, I feel with this generation that they are so, their ambition, but also their infectious creativity and their confidence, it rubs people the right way. It's very infectious. It's like it travels to so many others. So if you're feeling down and you talk to them, they're all about, no, because, you know, everything's going to be okay. And, you know, yes, they can be very argumentative. Yes, they can be know-it-alls, but they mean well. You know, this is another generation that I really love. I love, you know, the fact that they're very adventurous. This is the generation, because I haven't spoken about this in depth, like the others. This generation and Pluto in Libra, I haven't spoken in depth. But one thing about them is that, especially during the Black Lives Matter movement, they were at the forefront, calling things out. Some of them, yes, there was some physicality going on, but they're like freedom fighters. They actually remind me of the Pluto in Leo generation, when they were the ones, you know, taking to the streets. One thing about this Pluto in Sagittarius generation is that, you know, we can't speak about this without speaking about, you know, Gemini. When it comes to communication, it's very heard. And it's very, it travels worldwide. So it's like whatever this generation does, good or bad, you're going to be seeing it. Remember, this is the ninth house we're dealing with. The ninth house is about, you know, your belief systems. So they're not going to be afraid about, a bit like Libra, they're not going to be afraid to be calling things out. Yes, they are about equality, but they are also about, things have to be right, things have to be said. And again, things have to be heard. This is a generation that's not about repression in any shape or form. They are more inclined to get their point across, regardless. This is a generation also that's very physical. So we can see a lot of them actually trying to heal themselves through physical work, where it's working out with weights, climbing mountains, or climbing mountains, you know, just keeping themselves physically active, because they can't keep still. You know, again, we can't talk about this without speaking about Gemini. Like, the mind is very active. They're all about communication. They're all about attaining information. They're all about teaching. These are the philosophers. This is a generation that came up during the digital age. So my generation, we basically pioneered like blogging and all this, things like blogging, MySpace, yes, and also other things like Spotify and things that are, you know, previous generations are benefiting now. So this generation really took advantage of it, like Pluto Scorpio really took advantage of it. And this is how they learned. They learned a lot about the world through the internet, through social media. This generation is all about seeing the future, the bigger picture. They don't want any crazy downtime, or, you know, it's not a generation that is very emotional. It's about, you know, we talk things through. Any type of drama and arguments, we're going to have it out and then we move on. Remember, we're going into mutable time too. So when it goes, you know, so it's now in their second house. But before I talk about that, some of the People that are born, the celebrities that are born during this time are, you know, Kylie and Kendall Jenner. The K-pop performers as well. Lil Nas X, Billie Eilish, Simone Biles, who is a gymnastic Olympian, Zendaya, Tom Holland. These people come to mind. Greta Thunberg, cannot forget Greta Thunberg as well. So we're starting to see, like, you know, even though they are, because a lot of them came up during the Pluto in Capricorn, because it's their second house. So this about them, their earnings, how they're earning money, you know, their self-worth. So they're coming up, they're into the business, they're into all of that. Some of the people I know of this generation, some of them are struggling, because not only is some of this generation born like in the late 2008, some of them also are yeah, because I said that they are a lot of them are, the oldest is like 27, or they're going to be 27, but the youngest, they're teenagers, they're like 15. Yes, they're 15 to 27. And yes, some of them are in high school, but the ones that I know, especially the 20-year-olds that are working, a lot of them have really struggled, because especially in the mid, like the beginning of like last decade, a lot of them couldn't get a job. A lot of them didn't know where their life was going. A lot of them didn't understand, like, you know, even though they were pushing, they just couldn't really catch that break. But now, you know, so they just worked these jobs that some of them weren't actually passionate about. You know, some of them did go to college, and some of them dropped out because it just wasn't for them. They're not about restrictions. And this generation, they're also clashing with the Pluto in Virgo, who are in charge of what's going on. I mean, I'm a TA, so I've worked with the kids of Pluto Virgo and the kids of Pluto in Saggy, I'm Virgo and Saggy, and you know, you can see that the Pluto in Virgo tend to ignore them, like when they're talking about things, what they can improve. Remember, this is a forward-thinking generation. They're just being ignored, so this tends to be an argument. And you got me, Pluto Libra, just like in the middle, like, I understand what you mean, I understand what you mean. Let them talk, because you know what they're saying is really important, but also you have to listen to them because, you know, they're their elders. So there's a lot of that going on. So yes. So now it's going to go into their third house for the next 20 years. This generation, like the Pluto in Libra, are really going to benefit 20 years going forward because of the ear conjunction. So for those of you who do not know, we had the first ear conjunction in Aquarius in December 2020. The next one in 20 years' time is going to be in Libra. Then the next one is going to be in Gemini. Then it's going to go again. You know, there's going to be like Aquarius, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. It's going to be like that for the next 250 years. So regardless of where Pluto goes, when it goes into Pisces, it'll be this generation's fourth house. You're still going to benefit because it's going to, because of the ear, it's going to be sextiling you. Okay? So whatever you're doing, make it count. Because this is going to be in your third house. This is a house of communication. This is a house of business, contracts. This is a house of podcasting, blogging, writing, speaking. This is a time that a lot of you will be probably moving. You know, there's a time where you'll be getting together with neighbors, because with Aquarius ruling your third, it's about communicating with neighbors, building like a community. You'll be calling things out. This is about you guys changing things to do with like the law, courts, philosophy. You guys will be at the forefront of protests, humanitarianism work as well. You guys are going to, like I said, I feel that you remind me of the Pluto in Leo, you know, when they had like the Vietnam War protests. And so you guys are going to be doing that. I believe that what's happening in France, a lot of the people there are Pluto and Saggy. Okay, they're not taking any BS or any crap. So you guys are just, you know, now that Pluto's in Aquarius, even if for a short while, we're going to see a lot of you guys rising up. You guys are going to be calling things out. Yes, there's a downside to this. You guys could be very preachy. You could be extremely argumentative. You may not listen. You may, you know, just listen to your elders. Remember, your elders will help you. I feel that the Pluto in Libra will help you a lot. So try to listen to them, because they will be your biggest allies, your biggest supporters. They will be helping to guide you very well. They understand you very well. But also another thing I've seen with this generation is that you're going to be transforming fitness. Okay. So going from the previous one in Scorpio, it was about, you know, like it was sort of like body beautiful. Okay. Remember the Pluto in Capricorn, the 5th house to that was Virgo. So it was about having the perfect body. So we saw with the Pluto, Virgo and Scorpio, we're trying to have that sort of, you know, yes, it was about, you know, revealing things with to do like the mind in terms of working out. But you guys will be doing it differently. Like, I feel that muscles will be more bigger. Like, instead of getting like this sort of like body that everyone needs to have, it's about working with your body. So I feel because you guys are very physical, you'll be building, you'll be, because I am going to be, I feel that a lot of you will be like fitness trainers, but you'll be talking about how to build the body in order to, you know, strengthen the mind, strengthen the body to strengthen the mind. It's going to be about releasing toxins so that we don't have to hold on to it. Okay, we don't have to keep dredging it up. So whatever you're doing physically, it's going to be sort of like not making it go away, but working with it so that we don't have to constantly work with it too much or even again. I can see some of you definitely, because I see a lot of this generation, they're also stars of when it comes to athletics, badminton, tai chi, also yogis as well. What else? Yes, and also, you know, doing like karate, all of that. And with Pluto being in your 3rd, it's just going to be showing you how definitely how you're going to communicate, but how you're going to be doing business, how you're going to be restructuring the world. That's going to be helping mankind. And you in Aquarius are very similar. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with being vocal about things, but also some of you can find that there can be some anxiety that can come because you guys will be so busy. You'll be trying to save the world. You'll be trying to make sure things are balanced, that, you know, anxiety definitely can come. So just be mindful of how you are spreading yourself out too thin. Really take care of your mental, you know, because remember the opposite is Gemini. But also, you know, listening is going to be very important because you guys can really fly off the handle and in a fiery way. So, you know, even though I'm talking about this, I see that there's probably more that's going to be coming for you guys. So I really and truly look forward to seeing what happens. I really look forward to seeing what you're going to be revolutionizing. And another thing, because you're ruled by the 9th house, I see that you guys, and also because the 3rd house action, I feel that you guys will definitely change. With Pluto being in your 3rd, you guys are going to be changing the laws, but also you're going to be changing stuff to do with publishing and writing. I feel that writing and publishing will be more exclusive, not inclusive, how it was previously when Pluto was in Capricorn. I feel that you guys will, especially if some of you are building up publishing houses, it will be more like, it will be very independent, more independent. It'll be more easier for writers to come through. It's not because, you know, we're going to start seeing a dissolvement of like this, the publishing houses that we're seeing now. But you guys are going to be heralding a new change of writers that are coming through from different creeds and cultures, because you guys are ruled by race as well. So we're going to see different races of people, different languages being spoken. I feel that you guys will be helping and benefiting people like to learn a new language, because it will benefit you in the long run, not just learning English, for instance, learning other languages, reading about other languages, watching TVs in other languages too, just making things a bit more about equality. And even across the board, some of you are going to be judges, some of you are going to be lawyers and barristers. You guys are going to be changing things big time. But once again, because you guys are going to be so busy mentally and physically, you're going to have make sure that you're having that downtime when it comes to spirituality. So doing things like yoga, Pilates, meditation, I feel will really and truly help you guys. You guys will probably be doing it differently, like a walking meditation or just different types. But still, it's a very exciting time for you guys. And now we come to the last generation. I was going to do Pluto in Aquarius and Pisces, but I think we'll save those till, in the future. So now we've come to the Pluto in Capricorn generation. So these children are born in 2008, 2024. What a time it's been for this generation. It's not been very easy. This is like, you could say at this generation, they're very young, of course, but they're young, but also they're old as well. Why do you say that? Because whenever with Capricorns, the older they get, the younger they tend to look. And sometimes, and at times, the younger they are, the older they are. Okay? So this is a very serious generation. They're still very young. There's not much I'm going to say too much about them, because they're still, definitely coming up. But, we come from like a very fun-loving generation of Pluto in Sagittarius, very forward-thinking. And we're in Pluto in Capricorn. Now, when Pluto went into Capricorn 2008, that was when we had like the crash. Yeah, the first of recessions. Very, very devastating, pragmatic, a time that was very, a time of depression, should I say. And this generation, a lot of them were born in 2000, like late 2008. Some of them now are in their teens, in high school. I believe that the youngest is probably born now, or even like some of them are actually going to high school. So this is a generation that's very ambitious, very serious. And, they're pretty quiet, they're pretty reserved, they're pretty hardworking when it comes to their schoolwork. This is a generation that is about not necessarily fairness, but sort in a way like what's about theirs. It's a very ambitious generation, guys. I feel that with this generation, because it's in their first house, they're gonna be doing. I feel they're gonna definitely be doing a lot in order to solidify their future goals and dreams. Some of them now even know what they want to do. Some of them, this is the generation that is very about TikTok. Some of them are about Instagram. Yes, some of them are definitely about Instagram. They're very much doing a lot of their homework online, especially during this. I call this the pandemic generation, because when we went into the pandemic, they got the brunt of it. They had to do a lot of work from home. And their parents, and I forgot to say the Pluto in Saggy, their parents are Pluto in Scorpio, and their parents are Pluto in Libra and Scorpio. The Pluto in Saggy and Capricorn. That's who their parents are. So this is the pandemic generation. And from what I've seen, I've not seen, a lot of them are not having boyfriends and girlfriends very early. A lot of them are, really making sure they get their homework done on time. Some of them are doing, even if they're doing like after school clubs, they're doing like not necessarily like acting, or not say this is a general, but a lot of them are doing like very serious things like maths and English and science. Some of them are doing creative stuff, but not so much. They're very much about doing things at their own pace. Again, they know what they want. They're not having boyfriends and girlfriends. They're very, when it comes to like how their emotions are, it's very held close to their chest. And it's very much a cautious generation. They don't, remember the opposite is Cancer. So this generation will probably tend to get on if their great grandparents are alive. They tend to get on very well with their great grandparents. They're probably sitting down asking their grandparents, what was it like when you were my age? What was you doing? How did you make money? You know, I feel that a lot of that is definitely going on. And you know, I'm sure that some of you will look at your kids who are born here and think, yeah, you know, it's very much a different type of generation. But this generation have also seen a lot, and they've been a lot. They've seen a lot, a bit like Cancer. You know, they come up in a time where Capricorn has changed during their time. Like it was in Virgo, then it went into Libra. After they went to Scorpio, then it went into Sagittarius, then it was in Capricorn, which actually, you know, made things a lot more serious. I feel like it showed them how the world really is. A lot of stuff that came up concerned like the LGBTQ community, about the Me Too movement. There was a rise when Pluto and Capricorn of the elite, okay? And I feel that also this generation, they felt the brunt of what their parents went through. That some of their parents lost their jobs during the recession, during COVID. There was, you know, even like from the beginning of this decade, a lot of the children of this generation, some of them were, their parents couldn't afford to buy them things when it came to money and food and shelter. Some of these children were made homeless. Some of the children, you know, their parents had to work, I don't know, 2-3 jobs in order to provide for them. There was a lot of racial injustices that went up. The Black Lives Matter with the George Floyd, you know, Trayvon Martin, it exploded. A lot of them saw this on the TV. A lot of them saw racism within their schools when it came to like how the teacher is, you know, only pennying certain kids, but not them, You know, they saw injustice across the board. And some of them obviously are still too young to see it, but they're hearing about it because their parents are talking about it. Even things like to do with like gun violence. They saw the rise of the elite in this country. Like we had Boris Johnson, which made sure that kids weren't, you know, benefiting from the system. A lot of these kids also couldn't be going to play groups because the play groups were, the budget was cut short. I'm sure it's definitely across the board as well. But, you know, and also they saw a lot of like earthquakes, extreme heat that happened here as well. But I feel that the one main thing is that they saw a lot of this generation, they saw how the parents suffered. And I feel that with this generation, I feel that when they get older, or what they see now is going to be helping them in order to create a life for themselves. So that's why I feel they will work very hard. A lot of them will. Remember, this is the last generation of Cardinal. After Libra, this is the last one. So I feel a lot of them will be building businesses. A lot of them will be probably doing family businesses. Don't be surprised, guys, that if you are negotiating a contract, you're bringing your child with you, and they say, nope, that is not right. This is what my mum or dad deserves because the percentage of this, and you'll be the person will be looking at this little child and thinking, what the hell is this? You know, because they're very on it. They're very sharp. Remember, they're young children. They are young adults as well. So yes, but one of the worst things, obviously, the virus that happened. A lot of them probably did go through a lot of internal things when it came to like social anxiety. They saw a lot of death. They saw a lot of, again, rebirths. They also, some of them couldn't make as much friends as well because there was a lot of restrictions that were placed on them. So a lot of them had to make friends online. A lot of them had to, some of them even probably started businesses as well. I would not be surprised. So yes, this generation has gone through a lot. Again, it's going to be a bit like the Pluto in Cancer. But it'll be very interesting to see what they're going to be rebuilding. I remember I was talking to a young child and I said, when you are older, you see what the previous generations have done who are in power. Don't do that, because the come down will be very dread. And they looked at me like, okay, and you could see what thinking, whatever. But I know that they're going to remember that. You know, we're dealing with young adults here, very young adults who grew up before their time, a little bit like Pluto in Libra, you know. So yes, it'll be very interesting. Like I said, I couldn't talk about too much about this generation because they're still so young, but it'll be very interesting to see, because when Pluto in Libra passed the baton, it will be to this generation. Okay. So guys, that's it. So guys, that was the video for the Pluto generations for when Pluto goes into Aquarius. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I feel like I'm losing my voice actually. I was really excited to do this video because I think it's so important. If you guys are listening to this in the future, welcome. I'm doing this in 2023. Feel free to let me know how it's gone for you. Let me know your comments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, guys. This video has been very long. It really needed to be. Again, guys, look to my podcast because I've put the full links on the Pluto in Cancer, Virgo and Libra and Leo. Listen out for the other two I'm going to be putting up. And once again, guys, thank you so much for listening. And feel free to let me know what you think. And I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.